We good?
Yeah, we are live.
All right, we're live. Hello, welcome to the final day. It's Friday. I got all sorts of neat stuff pre-built for you. Today, for those of you who don't know me, my name is James High. Work here for Modal, the lonely U.S. representative. I was one of the sound designers for the Cobalt 8. You might also recognize me as Major OSC, but you can just refer to me as James. And today we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be working with the Argon 8X and the Cobalt. And today is a big day too because we are giving away an Argon 8X as a prize. That's a big deal. Let's see. We do have several Modal staff in the chat as well. So if you have technical questions, if you're a new owner and you have any questions you want to ask, post up. They'll be answering questions and stuff. I won't actually be monitoring the live chat. I'll just be sticking to the course material, so to speak. But if there are things that you want to see demonstrated, I will get those messages relayed to me. So I'm happy to demonstrate anything like that. Let me pull up an agenda list here real quick, and I'll let you know precisely what we are doing. But in the meantime, while I'm doing this, go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to us, the Modal Electronics YouTube channel, and check us out on Facebook. Lots of good content coming this year. They work me like work me a lot, and we're going to be doing a lot of video content. So we're going to be featuring the Keith McMillan Keyboard Pro 4. I did get the Y slide working. I'm going to show you a couple of patches that I designed. It's basically defaults to the joystick, which I think is very handy. And yeah, we're going to call that part Mad Lab because that's when creativity and live testing kind of come together. Crazy ideas come together. Then we're going to be working with the Cobalt 8M right here in front of me. And I thought it would be really cool if we used all three LFOs to control different pitches and try to make some kind of polyrhythm out of the square wave LFOs. I thought that'd be really neat. And and then if I feel brave enough, we might just prank call one of the other sound designers of the Cobalt 8 and see if he's around. That'd be hilarious. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to do that or not. So. Oh, and by the way, when I do announce the winners of the winner of the Argon 8X, I'm going to ask you to type in the letter X. So if you're on your TV for some reason right now, just be near your phone because you're going to have to type in X to know, to kind of mention that you're still here, and then we're going to grab all those names and put them in a little randomizer and grab the winner from there. So let me transition here. Can you guys? Oh, okay. I think I see how that's working now. Yep, I see the problem. Pretty sure everybody can hear me now. I'm gonna just wait for the confirmation here, and my apologies for that. I think we're gonna, you know what? YouTube has a really lovely feature where you can actually edit out stuff post production, so we're gonna have to do that. But okay, cool. Yep, I blame good old OBS for that one. My apologies. Welcome to Modal Electronics live stream, last day, 22 Friday Friday the 22nd of January 2021. We're gonna have fun today. Let me see here. Okay, what's on the agenda? Well, we're going to be working with Argon 8M and Cobalt 8. Argon 8X and Cobalt 8M. We got a big treat in store for you. We're going to be giving away one Argon 8X as a prize. When that happens, you're going to need to be near a YouTube viewer that has chat. So, get away from your smart TV, get on your phone for that part, because I'm going to ask everybody simultaneously to press the letter X and post up as a comment. That way we know you're here, you're live, and watching it, and then those names will be drawn from a magic hat or something. For those of you who know who I am, my name is James. I'm one of the sound designers for the Cobalt 8, work for Modal here. I'm the lonely U.S. representative, and we doing videos for Modal here in the future as well. So if you haven't already liked and subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. We'd really appreciate it. Plus, you can sign up for a newsletter over at modalelectronics.com. And there's a lot of cool shows coming out. If you're a new owner of a Modal Cobalt 8 or Argon 8, we got Modal Minute. It's like a 1 minute quick tips. We got Quick Dive. And then we're going to be doing something called the Breakdown, which it's going to be more production focused and live jam focused. And I'm kind of going to break down what I do each week for a live jam. But today we're going to be covering the filters on the Cobalt 8, as well as doing some LFO experimentation with pitch changing. So we're going to use all three LFOs in the Cobalt 8 to try and make some kind of melodic polyrhythm. But right now we're in Argon 8X, and I got this gnarly Keith McMillan Keyboard Pro next to a bunch of candy that I should not be eating. I blame my wife. And I finally figured out how to map the Y variable, which it defaults to joystick forward. I should have just figured that. So really at the time I wasn't playing any patches that did this, that took advantage of the joystick. I also, for these two patches that I'm going to show you, I took the, I'm going to switch views here so we can get into the app. Okay, I think I see the problem. It's the mic that got deleted. Okay. So what I just need to do, hold tight, guys. I know what I need to do. I'm going to switch this over and then add the sound source. Okay, we should be good. Yep. I think we got sound in this view too. Okay, so here we are in the app. Today is a good day. Lots of Modal Electronics synths hooked up. So one thing I noticed when I first got the Keyboard Pro 4 all hooked up is that it doesn't have MIDI direct out. So I was using USB, which meant I needed to go in here in the app. So for those of you who have things without MIDI DIN, without traditional MIDI, you're going to need to do this. You're going to need to go in audio MIDI setup and go click on MIDI forward. And that will allow you to use USB controllers. Making sure everything's cool. Okay, good, great. Sounds working on both. So, but yeah, I had to go in and change the settings to make sure that this controller wasn't too touchy. And that what the problem was is that it was on, where's page 2 of the settings? It was this, MPE pitch bend range. This was all the way up to like 48 or something like that. So You'll hear the difference in a second. I'm going to turn that down ever so slightly. And I actually have to turn all these other apps down, or all these other cobalts and argons down, so we can just hear this. So if I crank this up, it's really going to get touchy. And that's not good. So I just needed a little bit, or none at all, really. It just depends. If you have a patch that requires aftertouch to get the vibrato effect, that's probably an even easier way of getting it. But it's up to preference. So here's the 2 presets I made. One of them is called Matrix Wave. One of them is called Shaolin Fuzz. They're both very loud. I should probably turn on the patch gain. Actually, that's not so bad anymore. Crank that back up. Okay, good. Oh, see, the problem... Another thing you might want to check on your settings, if you're running multiple argons and cobalts like I am, go into your... And this is a good lesson. I'm going to kind of deviate here from the plan. Go into your settings on page 1, and under DIN out, turn off SysX and CC, and that will ensure that the other one's volumes don't get turned up. I believe that will be the case. Although if we're on MIDI forward, that might not even apply. Okay, yep, looks like we're good. Perfect. Okay, so this one's a kind of a weird one. I have Y plus doing a lot of different stuff here. It's increasing the spread. So as you can see, the spread starts from basically nothing. It is increasing the oscillator mod, and that's ring mod. Although we could turn it to phase mod and see how crazy it gets too. I think we're better on ring mod. Yeah, that's pretty evil. Okay, you get the idea with that one, huh? Another one I'm doing with Y+, which is this. Oh, you can't see that, but man, it would be really great if I had a multi-view. I'll do that for another show. I'll just do this. There we go. So I'm doing this on the keyboard, raising the roof, raising the hands, cat claws, and that's moving, Y+. And as you can see here, pretty much most of them are routed to it. Except for aftertouch. Oh, yeah. And the takeaway for this, I want to point out, is that if you want to create something completely original as far as sound-wise, go experiment and put like 3 or 4 things to the same variable and make it a variable that you can control. Not an envelope, not an LFO, but like a joystick or aftertouch. And then from there, you make careful adjustments. Usually that will entail using something like a wavetable, maybe even throwing a wave mod for kicks. Although I usually add those after the fact. But if you really like a wave mod, then you can just pick a wavetable with that turned on and get a bunch of different, combinations. So you'd have one wavetable doing movement, maybe even another wavetable doing movement, or alternatively, or in addition to, you could have the mix changing. So when you move Y+, it'll actually be increasing the mix. If we did that, it would actually jump over to this oscillator. If I turn off the effects here, it might be better. And then on Y+, where is it? Y+ wave 2, so that's going from 0 value, and this would be delegating it to jump up to max, I believe. Yeah. So, and basically the idea is that you make this kind of cohesive travel, make it sound good at every angle along the way, from center position all the way up to max. So essentially, you're creating this kind of linear, interactive path of things that happen that you delegated to happen. It's sort of like creating another wavetable, because you're adding so much on top, but it's much more complex, obviously. So that's a fun thing to do. I wanted to show you that. Here's another one, another patch I did. Matrix wave. Okay, this is neat. I'm going to have to get the overhead shot for this. Definitely going to need the overhead. All right, transition. Oh, that would be... Okay. And then I need a different camera. Boop, boop. There we are. Let's get zoomed in. Ever so slightly. Better. Oop. Shaky. This one's neat. So I have the Y, whatever you call it, the slide value set to absolute. Now on this app. I'm double. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, good. So on this app, you can see right here, oscillator mod, which is phase mod. Phase mod's a wild one. Think of phase mod like FM. I have that mapped to Y+. And that's really what's causing the mayhem in this one. And make sure I'm... Okay, good. And let me show you what that mayhem results in when you have absolute selected as the mode for this Y variable. So that what absolute means compared to relative absolute means if I touch my finger up here, it will be basically increasing the Y value to maximum. It's just essentially it's like cranking this up to full. And if I do it in the middle, it's like instantly going to the middle. Whereas if it was relative, I could start here and it would be at 0 position. When I move forward, this would go up. So there's your difference. I thought it's really cool to use absolute mode in certain scenarios, and this would be one of them. Well, let me get a little bit less sloppy example here and turn off the effects. Might need to turn down the effects. Okay. It's strange. Something is making noise. I think I know where it's coming from because I have MIDI routed from certain things. Just double check this real quick. Hang in there, guys. One. Oh well, I'm not gonna worry about that. There we go. Okay, let's continue. So absolute value, you can do a lot of really kind of crazy stuff. If I'm holding it down and then touching the top simultaneously, it's gonna kind of slide up. Or if I just touch the top. I believe I have a little soft attack there. I'm not really liking that. Yeah. Okay. But that's just it's just another example of this crazy polyphonic expression controller. They're kind of all the rage, and there's more and more popping up. And I think it was definitely worth showing this. For one, I want to thank Keith McMillan personally for letting me try this and demoing it on the air. It was a risky thing because who knows, as you can tell, I'm probably not the brightest computer guy with the sound and all that. But MIDI is, fortunately, MIDI is fairly simple, even when it's in a more advanced form like this. And I can't say enough good things about this. It's really fun. The other ones out there, like Rolly Seaboard, I don't even think they're anything comparable because it's like playing on a Tempur-Pedic bed or playing on some kind of new feeling, solidified keyboard. This feels much more like a keyboard. So kudos to Keith for cranking this out. So let's move on. Why don't I go over one of the presets I did that I did not get to cover the other day. Actually, no. Let's move on to the Cobalt. So I'm just gonna pull the volume off there. Pull this one up. Okay, transition. There we go. Now this is another patch. This one is a factory preset. I believe it's one. Yeah, it's factory preset number 3. So it should be pretty familiar to anybody who owns a Cobalt already. This one was inspired by Band of Brothers. I think I watch that yearly, at least, binge watch it yearly. Pretty rusty at it, huh? I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but the idea is you basically program a little bit of aftertouch on the cutoff aftertouch modulation fixed destination thing, and then when you want to rise in the brass, that's what you do. Now, if you want a more dramatic effect from that, one thing you could check is the effects level, right? The effects level is at 60. You can get it to sound a bit more present if, for example, we took one of the aftertouch routings, oopsies, right here, and we made this reduce the FX amount. Especially if you're using external effects, then it's even more prevalent. Where you could have your external effects going, you can kind of ditch these, and essentially brings out the dry signal. It'll fool your ears into thinking it's getting more intense. Another thing you could do is just choose an algorithm that has some more busy, things going on here. Aftertouch to oscillator 2A, that would be the weight. So let's talk a little bit about the filter here. If I'm not mistaken, I believe these are modeled after the ladder filter, the Moog, or the famous ladder filter invented by Bob Moog. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. There's a couple different modes. One of them I wanted to show you. I think I showed this on the first stream. Actually, I'll save that to last. It's balance phase. That's the one I was about to show you, but let's go in order here. So you got Reso LP. I'm not going to try to explain the differences. I'm going to let you guys hear the differences because I got enough control here over the filter with aftertouch and cutoff that I think you'll be able to hear for yourself. And here's balanced LP. So just going off ear, you can already tell that there's a lot more control, and hence that's probably a clever name for it. Balanced LP would be low pass filter with a balanced output, so it doesn't kind of it doesn't overdrive even on high res. And much like a real ladder filter, you're going to lose some of that low end when you're cranking up the res. And from there, the featured frequencies are going to be much more, they're going to be higher unless you're pretty much closed filter, which can be quite advantageous, actually. So yesterday, the devs told me something, this is regarding the routing of cutoff to notes. When you do this and you crank this to 0, I believe that is when the notes are tracked correctly and accurately. Let's try. Oh, we gotta have 0 depth, I believe, for the envelope. Make sure there's no other routings. Still not getting it. I'm not sure what's going on. Is this supposed to be tracking? I thought. No movement whatsoever. That's concerning. I'm probably doing something wrong, though. Just double check something here. Nope. Okay. Well, something to look into. Let's move on. Let's go back to Band of Brassers. And we'll try Balance High Pass. Okay, high pass is one that probably most of us don't work with too often unless you're doing some kind of, pad sweep. Try a reverse envelope. Kind of works, doesn't it? So it's much more like a pluck on low pass mode, except, since you're in high pass mode, the logical thing would be to reverse your envelope too. Right, and you have to keep in mind that attack now becomes sort of like the decay. If you're thinking of it in terms of low pass, where it's coming back to an audible, frequency range. What's going on here? Why am I not hearing it? Oh, here we go. There we go. Much better. Release will play a lot. Come into play as far as shaping, sculpting your sound's characteristics. You want to climb back up, find that sweet spot with the release. Add a little bit of those effects. All right, let's move on. Balanced phase. This is the cool one. So cool. In fact, it's inspired some of the naming of presets of mine. Where is it? Phase breaker. It's in there somewhere. I'll just find it in my collection here. All right, we're in the 8M. I forgot. We're in only factory patches. Might be better off going. No, we're in the regular. Yeah, we are in the 8M. Let's go in the 8, shall we? There we go. There we go. Okay. This is the fun you can have. Balanced phase is going to require you to kind of move it around and find that sweet spot. Morph will affect it. Just visually, it's very, very helpful what's going on over here. That's the biggest kind of determination. Well, that's the first visual cue you're going to get. And then the next one is going to be audible. While we're on this preset, I thought I would change some of these routings to be more harmonic, to create more harmonics, not just from the filter, but from the oscillators and the oscillator pitches. It's really not hard. So this is a fun thing you can do, especially with this patch, because it's got a great polyrhythm already. So you can make an alias of this. Just hit save, go to your preset manager. Well, actually hit exit first. Check to see if you got some empty space somewhere. So 403. And smarter thing to do would actually just be grab that and then drag down to 4 and then just drop it in there and go to yes. Now you can set, you have an alias or a duplicate of it. You can do anything you want to it. So let's take LFO2 to oscillator 2B. Let's make that oscillator 2 pitch. Why not? Important to note the shape. LFO2 is a saw right now. It cannot be that if we want any kind of, if we want the pitch to play nice with us, we need it to be a square. And we need to adjust the amount. Okay, now let's try having that alter oscillator 1 pitch, maybe? That might not work. It might work. Who knows? I think it's time we request the developers make 1-pole and 2-pole filters. Or I should say one, what is it called? 1 direction or 2 direction. So for those of you who don't know what I'm doing, LFO 1 or any of these right here is where we're modulating it from. If you think of this in terms of pitch high or pitch low, ideally speaking, if you're adjusting pitch on a synthesizer with an LFO, you would want it to be by one pole or like one direction. Two direction, it can work, but you have to be very careful when you're spreading them apart because there's only so much you can do harmonically. So for this one, I think it might be best to actually just alter something like the harmonics of the oscillator. Bipolar, thank you. You know what I want to do? I want to make something go faster. No, not that one. Another fun thing you can do, just go in and adjust speeds of LFOs on these kind of patches. That's not really working, is it? What's LFO? Oh, it's the cutoff. Another thing. With this, it's very tricky to get rhythms modulating the cutoff. I believe that was the hardest part about designing this patch, is that if you went too crazy with the modulation amount, you would get just really sloppy sounding kind of wobbles. That's that rate changer. That's also one of the hardest things to work with, is when you're using an LFO to change the rate of another LFO. If you're doing that and you want to play around with that, have fun. However, keep in mind your best friend is going to be a square, because it's even. It's going to be much more mathematically friendly. We'll just say that. All right, guys in the chat, if you got requests for some designing a preset on Cobalt or on Argon, post up. I'll take request. I know we've built a bass patch before. Built a pad, I think, on day one. We had done a lead or a lead on Argon, I think. Not sure if we did a lead on Cobalt. Maybe that would be a good one. But if you have a preference, post up by all means. They'll relay that to me. I already showed you guys that one. Here's another one of LFOs. Oh, yeah, good to point out. I don't think I've mentioned this before. So the other day, I believe it was... what was his name? Someone mentioned modulating LFOs. I'm sorry, modulating the depth of the LFOs, and if that was possible, and it very much is by several means. And the ones I like to use, obviously, there's this. Of course, it's fixed. Y plus to LFO, one depth. But Aftertouch, I think, is cool because it lets you kind of free stuff up. Lets you go hands free. Ooh, I see a request. Trance lead. I might have to elaborate on that, because a trance lead, if we're thinking about the cliche trance lead, that's just going to be spread saw, and then heavily detuned. Quick release, etc., etc. We could make a lead that's probably very much acceptable to use in trance. Why don't we do that? We'll make what we would call a progressive house, progressive trance lead. Blade Runner Stereoscapes. Oh yeah, I can definitely help you there. All right, I'm going to go over the filter envelope timing lecture lesson. Don't worry, it's not a lecture. I'm just going to elaborate on some subtle timing things you can do with your filter envelope here. If you're designing a patch, start with a nice long release. Nothing too long, but enough to get an idea of what's going on everywhere, both attack and release. Get your cutoff dial down, but make sure your depth is up on the filter envelope. This is exclusively for the filter, for all you noobs out there. I'm not going to let you get left behind here. Sustain, look at that. Sustain consider it like another extension of this after these two are done doing their work. After attack and decay have run their timing, because consider these two just a variance of time. This is the ultimate position. This is the end destination, right? And then after that, it's just release. As soon as the note, letting go of the note is right here. So release takes care of the rest, but sustain is where it ends up. So I'm holding down the note. Went up, down, and now we're somewhere in the middle. So it's kind of a balancing act of where you want it to end up if you're holding down a note. If you want very, very long note, try using the linear envelope on both. Look at that, you got a lot more to work with, a lot more time. I cannot stress this enough. If you are making a pad and you want it to actually work in music, and for yourself, do yourself a favor and make the attack reasonable. Don't make it so. The one thing I cannot stand is if I go to play a synth at a store, I'm playing a factory preset, and I go to press the notes down and nothing happens. And I sit there and wait another even 1-2 seconds, and then I start to hear sounds. That is completely useless from a musical standpoint, from a performance standpoint. It's basically, at that point, it just becomes a sound test. It's for you and you alone, because nobody else is going to ever find that useful. So keep your attack times under control. Otherwise, they are completely useless in music, and the person that's using it is going to have to go in and adjust it, which all the more power to them. Most people have their preferences. You might do a little adjusting no matter what, even if it's spot on. But I cannot count how many pads I've come across on sound sets, on synths, all over the place that just have these absurdly long attack times. Like, okay, I'm not making a 32 bar break that has to have one long sweep. It's just no point. In fact, for pads like supporting pads, and not necessarily like Blade Runner-esque pads, you'd want to have it pretty much come in right away and be audible. Let's try this. You know what? We're going to crank that. There we go. Okay, there's another shape you can work with for pads. If you don't want the up and the down and you just want the up, that's a good one. Also be careful of your release times. If you're going to be doing quick chord progressions, obviously you don't want your release time to be too loud. Too long. Spread, of course, is going to get it sounding nice. You'd obviously want to get that in there somewhere early in the process so you can start to kind of feel it out. Feel out what the end product is going to start to shape up to be. Let's go patch gain. Let's boost that up here. Sorry for anybody who's on monitors. Oopsies. What am I doing? FX. I showed you guys this the other day, but ping pong delay is going to be your best friend for width. Well, aside from width itself, but this is going to split your voices unevenly. So I don't like to go too high with width. I like to do. You want to hear the difference right there. No ping pong. Ping pong. Increasing the feedback obviously adds some high harmonics. Just keep that in check though. The more abrupt movement you have in these pads when you're using ping pong delay, the more you will hear the ping pong delay. If you have everything very smooth and very legato, the ping pong delay will essentially be transparent. Keep that in mind. Which is why I like to have an attack time that actually doesn't finish completely by the time I'm letting go of most notes. Check that out by increasing your res. Got a request for tremolo. But you'd want to adjust your phase and have it bouncing off left and right. And that'll be your, that'll be your different shapes. It's going to be rounded when it's at 0, I believe. Typically not a big fan of that, especially in production, mostly because I'm going to be using effects inside of the DAW itself after the fact to spread it out. So from a performance standpoint, that might actually be kind of useful if you're in a venue that actually has a stereo setup. But also keep this in mind: the bigger the venue you're in, the more likely you are to be in mono. In fact, I believe most of the best sound systems for concerts are actually in mono, with the exception of something called System 1. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a new one. I don't know. Last I heard, there was only like one actual true stereo live PA system. The rest are... That is kind of nice, though. It's very nice. And then you could certainly use Aftertouch to modulate the rate. That'd be kind of neat. Why don't we do that? This is turning out to be a little different than I imagined, but it might be kind of fun. Let's see. This is effects 2, and we'd want C. Yeah, that's neat. Right. Yeah, you crank that phase and the amount too. That's reminding me of the Super 6. That annoyed the bejesus out of me. I don't own one anymore. I had a lot of that going on. One of the LFOs controlled that, actually. It was fixed. It was built into the synth itself. It's very neat to do, but yeah. Yeah, neat. And I showed you guys this the other day, but you could assign Aftertouch to the attack time of an envelope. So kind of fool it into doing a different type of Aftertouch with a filter. So you would want it decreasing. There we go. That gives you kind of control over when it rises. There's a slow rise, and then here's a quick rise. Oops, And I showed this the other day too. Another trick you can do is crank it up into stack. Don't worry about the voice count. You're only going to have 4, but you can always do a second pass. So if you know the chords you're playing, you can play half of them the first take and then the rest of them the second take. But if you're doing stack, I recommend cranking that width up and, oops, let's make that 0. Oops. And crank your drift up too. Try to see what glide does here with polyphonic does. I need the filter up to hear it. Yeah, that's nice. Let's see what happens when we pull the attack down to 0. There we go. If you want to increase the if you want to fool people into thinking the voice count's higher, you could bring in another oscillator 2 and pitch it. Oh, I'm getting feedback. You like the patch? Okay, we'll save it. And we'll call... Oh, where are we at? Exit for a second here. Okay, we'll just save it in 400. Or what can I save it over? Oh, I have plenty of copies of going in 60. We'll save it over that. And I'll save it over crank lead. All right, and we're going to save it on 368. Boom, boom, boom. Save. Boom. Well, I was going to turn this into this trance lead too. So this is kind of, it's funny how you just adjust one parameter and it can go from being a pad to something else entirely. Reduce the release, could even just reduce the feedback. You could keep the ping pong delay if you want that width and just reduce the time and just make it, you don't have to have it be rhythmic or synced. I'm going to go with a little bit less glide here. might cool to sync the timing of the glide with the roughly with the attack time of the cutoff. Let's get some more polyphony in there. Let's just go with poly. And because this is a live stream and we got to do stuff to keep it entertaining and fun, we're going to crank up the H9 here. Hold on. Now we can turn on the width a little bit. Oof. You might get a little more impact if you're just using one oscillator, because remember, as soon as you start spreading these, this is making duplicates of itself. I believe up to 6. Velocity reduces attack time on the filter. And velocity reduces glide. Can we do that? I can't remember if we can. Yeah, we can. So if we're doing light notes, but if you go fast, actually we could reduce it even more. Up to 4 oscillators per group. There we go. That's a nice sweet spot right there. I think we're actually too loud on the chorus. That's better. Mitch Murder did a real nice remix of this cheesy synthwave song called Star Worshipper. That would be the chord progression. Oh, we got winners here. We got winners of the t-shirt giveaway. And I think we might even have an Argon 8X winner. Is that his name, Christian, starting with the W? I think so. Okay, let's get to it. Winners of the t-shirt, Riff 230, Adam Jerry Roadwald, Gorilla PHX. The sweater winners of the sweater, Jack Blum and Solarizer. Congrats. And the winner of the Argon 8X, if he's still online, and I'm assuming you are, you better be, Waveform. Congratulations, Waveform. Woo! Yikes. I think that one's sending other stuff. Nope, maybe not. Did I just lose everything? I'm getting a bunch of other notes too. Oh, I know what that one is. That's the 8. No, that's the 8X, I think. Why am I still hearing it? Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay, here's a cool tip. Get everything as tight as you can here with attack. Get rid of your glide, or most of it. And after touch, we'll bring in LFO 1 depth. LFO 1 modulates the global pitch, and you can get some really funky stuff going here. Make sure your depth of LFO 1 is turned all the way down. Love that. Always a big fan of that. I was in jazz. I drummed in jazz bands and also had a funk band, like pretty much the first 20 years of my life. And then Napster came along. What are we doing for time here? Oh, 1:15. Any other requests? Oh, by the way, the winners of the t-shirt and the sweatshirt, be sure to send your size to marketing@modalelectronics.com. We need your size. Yeah, that would be helpful. There we go. I was a little bit panned to the right, wasn't I? Sorry about that. All right, let's find something else to talk about. Oh, fun fact. I found this out recently. Those of you who know who Prida, or heard of Prida or Cirrus D or Eric Prydz, as he's usually called, he owns a 002. That was pretty neat. We didn't know that, or I didn't know that, rather. And he is a huge influence on me. And I'm getting a question. Do you have your own music? Do I make music? Fritz, yes, I do. I began, I think it was well over 10 years ago. I began in 2006, rather. I remember because it was right in between Ableton 6 and Ableton 7. Ableton Live 6 and Live 7. Those are the dark days of Ableton. There's always this argument whether or not one DAW sounds better than the other. Well, I can tell you, Ableton did not sound as good as as other DAWs back then. So I had a nice year or two to be out at sea and read books on production, and I was big into progressive house. I originally was DJing, and I had dropped out of college about 2 years in, circa 2004, joined up in the Navy in 2005 because I wanted a steady paycheck and figured I could learn some of the music stuff that I wanted through other means. And so, yeah, once I discovered Dead Mouse was really starting to blow up around 2007, 2008, maybe before, maybe after. And so was Eric Prydz, and I followed, and those two had these killer plugs. And that's kind of what got me into sound design, is just trying to sound like those guys. And I mean, I was relentless. So I made progressive house. I got my first release with the hell are they called? Synthetic Arts. Art Patrice owned that label. He picked me up on the forums on GU, Global Underground forums. I was posting up. I had a new song that I had made out when I was out at sea, and we were about a month away from pulling into port off our first deployment in 2008. And it was called Balance Point. And I didn't have an interface back then, and I had Pioneer DJ headphones. I didn't even know what a mixdown was. Well, I mean, I was familiar with it. I didn't realize that the mixdown that I did was horrible because of the headphones I was using and because of the lack of interface. But we fixed it up, and I got my first release. And Hernan Cerbello, who's done a lot of work for Anjuna Deep, actually did a remix for us, which is great. And so Art did a remix as well. And I didn't make a cent off of it, but it got me introduced to a couple other people, and then I was just doing remixes, and I had a couple other originals scattered about, but I was busy in the Navy, and it's a ton of work to actually get something fully produced and mastered, and the time it takes is very long. So when you have workup cycles and a lot of stuff going on in the Navy, it complicates things. And one of the nice things about being an engineman in the Navy, as shitty as the job was, as part of my language, is it pays well as you advance very quickly. And I was in San Diego, so I wasn't too far off from LA. And let me tell you, LA Craigslist is like the used synth mecca of the world. I got a JD 800 for $500. I remember I got a Juno 106 for about $400. I got a Virus TI 61 key for about $1,200, which at the time was a great price. So yeah, a lot of fun. And then I hooked up with a label at the time. They were called Zero Digital. They kind of restructured and have a gal by the name of Riley B running the label, and they're known as Leica Records. And I actually do have a remix coming out, remixing a very talented producer named Michael A. And myself and Riley B worked on a tune. I was pretty much the producer and mastering engineer, and I would call Riley the tastemaker and sort of the director of the tune, because she's a far better DJ than I am. So yeah, look for that. It's on Beatport. I'm usually under James High, but I think for this I'm actually going to be Major OSC. It'll be the first official release as Major OSC on Beatport, or Major Oscillator. I think it's going to be Major OSC though. And then I have a SoundCloud page, and I did synthwave and for fun. But unless you're really really good at marketing yourself as a musician, don't expect to make money from music. And if you do, that's fantastic. And the climate we live in, social climate we live in, obviously doesn't make for a lot of opportunities to play live. So, you gotta make do with with whatever's available. But yeah, I was never in it for the money per se. I just needed to make sure I was making money while I went along, so I could constantly buy, the latest modal synthesizer. Any other questions? Here's a tip: if you're off designing your own sounds, experimenting, go watch something that you like or listen to something that you really like. Oh, man, this is another thing. It's the last stream of the day. I was going to completely break routine here and go through a list of like my favorite synth inspiring albums, and I rather than risk getting flagged for piracy or infringement, copyright infringement, I could just name them off because these are albums I picked up on deployment. One of them, let's see, 1+1. It was James Zabila and Nick Fanciulli. They did a combo kind of alias album called 1+1. It's white album. I had it on CD. Fantastic one. Dave Seaman, Therapy Sessions Volume 4. I would say the best first 20 minutes of any album I've ever heard in my period. It's the best 20 minutes intro / first couple of tunes. Unbelievable. Trent the Molar. Very, very, very cool producer. Tons of sound design. That guy is really good. And I think he actually uses quite a few presets too. In fact, one of the songs I remember, he had a big stab, like a trance stab, on his song Moan, and it was straight out of a microchord or something like that. But this is back in the day, mind you. Nick Warren, Global Underground Paris. It's another one. Freaking amazing album. Mostly because it has some of my favorite artists on it. It had 16-bit Lolitas. If you're into the more harder sounding stuff, Deadmau5, of course, anything from him, really. But one album I really liked was Sandra Kleinenberg's This Is Sandra Kleinenberg. There was a whole series of these albums. This Is So-and-so. Well, his album was, I think it was a two CD album. And that was the first time I heard BSOD, which is Deadmau5 and Steve Duda. And that, I remember I was in the middle of I was laying down, after a watch, we were out at sea. I had done a 12 to 2, or they call it balls to 2, watch in DC Central. I basically sat in a fire station waiting for fires to break out while another guy roved around and then checked in every hour. And these are the hours that I read Music Mag and Sound on Sound and stuff. So, and I'd get back from my rack, and to unwind, I'd always listen to music. And so I had this album playing, and I'd fall asleep a lot of times to this album. And as soon as that song kicked on, it was called Game Over by BSOD, Game Over. When it sounds like a video game. It sounds like Space Invaders. Just absolutely mind-bending when you're sleeping. And so I was half awake, half asleep, kind of floating, hearing this for the first time. And eventually I came to and I sat up and I was just bobbing my head. And guy to my right looked at me like I was crazy, but those kind of experiences kind of solidify into your head and become these kind of defining moments where you're like, oh, this is so awesome. I got to find a way to do this. So that was one of several where I was really kind of blown away by how sound can kind of affect the way we think of things. And so I realized from then on, no matter how crappy the watch is or how late the watches got in the Navy, I could always, pending circumstance, I could always have music blasting in my ears and keeping me, uplifted. I suggest you all do the same. See if I can find a pad. I did have this really cheeky synthwave tune called what the hell was it called? The Agenda. I won't tell you what inspired it, but we'll just say my wife and I weren't on the best of terms at the time. But we're doing great now. And the agenda had a very fun chord progression, and it was sort of a hodgepodge of a couple of different sources, which is worth noting. Writing music is not that hard. Find something that inspires you, and make a rendition of that chord progression, and then come up with your own lead. You know who did that? Michael Jackson. He did that relentlessly, notoriously. If you asked Quincy Jones about which songs he stole from what, I would wager at least a third of his songs from Quincy, produced by Quincy, were actually a result of him showing up in the studio after hearing another person's song and saying, "We got to do something like this." So the one I grabbed it from was a very cool producer by the name of the alias is Lifelike. He's sort of like I would call him retrowave before retrowave was actually a thing. He was making retrowave. He was kind of like what Daft Punk is, sampling old school stuff, and then throwing a new beat behind it, adding pads, adding melodies and stuff. And he had a really, really basic chord progression, I think. Let's see if I can. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that's something like that. There it is. Let's see. There it is. Yeah. Anyways. But yeah, I'm on SoundCloud as James High, or Major OSC, one of the two, or Major Oscillator, if you want to check me out. Also, people of worthy of mention here, I wanted to thank you, James Dyson, probably Modal's #1 fan, and also another sound designer and avid synthesizer enthusiast. Don't hesitate to check him out. He's on YouTube, he's on Facebook, he's all over the place, as well as Alpha Code Synth. Otherwise, his name is Camille, and I was going to have him on the show today as an interview, but I chickened out from calling him. That's what he'll tell me, but he was chickening out. Otherwise, he would have committed for sure. But he is a sound designer, also one of the Cobalt sound designers, and has a YouTube channel. And I think we're actually going to call it here. We're gonna wrap things up here at an hour and a half mark, and I'm gonna queue up some of him playing the Argon 8. And just to give you an idea of how good this is, this convinced me to buy the Argon 8. That's how freaking good this thing is. In fact, probably one of the first searches, if you search for Argon 8, this would probably be in the first 10, I want to say. Yeah, it's the fourth one down. I'm going to queue this up, and don't hesitate to go see Alpha Code Synth on YouTube. He does patch collections for other synths, but he's also a big fan of Modal, and we work closely with him. And now that I'm kind of solidified here at Modal and full time, I think I'm going to be fighting hard to keep him exclusive to us, because he's just too darn good. So with that, thank you for joining us for the stream. Thanks to Modal, my producer and boss man Christian, and support guy Mike, and devs Luke and company. Thank you very much for assisting us throughout the week and for answering technical questions. Definitely remember, like and subscribe, and check us out. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll definitely want to be signed up for the newsletter this year. Lots of cool stuff going to happen. At modalelectronics.com. And I'm going to let this run its course for about 5-10 minutes, or 7 minutes. There we go. And any last minute questions, feel free to post up. I can cut in and answer them. But thank you again. And I'll see you on the next Modal Minute or Quick Dive.